Hello again, everybody. This is Joe Larson with Chuck Schultz, and welcome to the 400th edition, 450th edition of the
See,
505.
he was a year behind because of the whole virus thing.
505 on Racing Show. Tonight we're going to talk about the big one at Talladega, and the big one that was at Talladega on Saturday as well.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And in recognition of show 450, we're going to talk about some of the people who got us here. And of course, we can't talk about everybody, but if we missed you, we'll get you one of these days. But
Give us a message. We'll talk about you.
give us a message. We'll talk about you.
We'll talk about you in front of your face.
Exactly. But when we come back, Talladega.
There you go.
Inravio.com.
Hey Chuck, hey Joe, it's Christine, your old producer.
Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome to the show
Talladega. They call it the big one.
at Talladega.
They look for the big one. Everybody watches for the big one. Well, in the Arca Menard series, Derek Lancaster, his car burst into flames after hitting the wall Saturday. And
Unbelievable.
It was incredible. We have some pictures of that. There he is, Derek Lancaster. His wife, Elizabeth, posted on social media that he had been placed on a ventilator to help with his lungs and help his lungs recover. Scans show no damage to the lungs and trachea, and doctors say he will be on that ventilator for 48 to 72 hours. So today or tomorrow, he may be getting off that. Derek sustained significant burns to his arms, neck, and face, but no broken bones. This is his second serious crash at Talladega. He had a crash there last year where he actually suffered a basal skull fracture and survived. For those who recall, Dale Earnhardt Sr. died from his wreck at Daytona from a basal skull fracture. So here at the 505 on Racing Show and Ultimate Media, we wish Derek Lancaster
Our prayers go out.
I
mean, he's got second and third degree burns on his hands, his neck, his
arms.
face, and his
And he was, that car was engulfed in flames for
a while before it stopped.
basically the whole backstretch.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not that it's funny, but he thought about, he drove the car into the infield, so it didn't affect anybody else. He was still conscious enough to do that. It's kind of, I'll say funny that when you're in a situation like that, you don't think about your fellow, you think about the other people.
Now, I got to say, and it seems like it would be right, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you because you would know. Don't they have a fire suppression system in there?
They do.
Don't they have, like we had, the 5-pound bottle?
Yes.
And we used to be able to nozzle it out 2 or 3 places and just pull a pin and at least knock it down so that you don't get burnt.
Yeah, my thought process in this, and I was, fortunately or unfortunately, in a wreck where I caught fire, my car caught fire. And my initial thought was get it to the dirt infield where the track crew is so they can get it out. And I remember going to put it in neutral.
Drive it to the fire truck, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I put it in neutral, and my shifter boot, which is supposed to be SFI,
It melted.
gone.
Yeah.
Gone. Flames are shooting out of there, and I just threw it with the shifter in neutral and undid myself and climbed out. So, you know, I had a fire extinguisher next to me. I didn't have the suppression system, but I had a fire extinguisher within reach that I could have, and I didn't even think of doing that. So you don't know what went through his mind.
I'm a fireman. I got the bottle.
Yeah.
I had the little T-handle there with the whole deal. As a matter of fact, we were very good about pulling the pin out of the T-handle before I raced. So there was no pulling the pin like in the emergency. And basically, all I had to do was reach up, grab the handle, and just pull.
And just pull.
That was it. You know what I mean? We talk about it on the show all the time, and safety is everything.
Yeah.
Safety is everything, because you know what? If you get hurt and you can't go to work to make more money to go back to go racing, then who you helping?
Yeah.
And everybody's got a family to be concerned about. You got expenses and everything else.
Yeah.
Last thing you want to do is, hurt yourself to the point where you can't go racing, or even, God forbid, something else.
And
worse.
we just I just got a text from an ARCA car owner. Said the fire bottle sensor is in the trunk and it's heat activated. That one went off. The interior bottle didn't because he was knocked out. He couldn't set it himself.
So he wasn't conscious.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. I didn't hear that he was unconscious, but yeah. So that makes a lot more sense. I want to thank you for that bit of information.
Now, with that be said, isn't there a way that they could have something that actually senses the heat and just goes?
Well, I would think.
I mean, all you need is a 212 heat sensor and have that thing let go.
Yeah.
I mean, because 212, if you get up to 212 in the cockpit of the car, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
But 212, it'll get up to 212 like that.
Yeah, they're saying the interior fire suppression system is manually activated. So that maybe could be something that could be looked at
And that's
in the
why
future.
that's why he didn't hit the bottle.
So
That's why it
that
didn't
makes-
go off, because he didn't hit the bottle.
Right. So we wish him well, and
Absolutely.
and hopefully he'll get a speedy recovery. He's suffering from burns like that. It's a long road.
That's
It's
a
very
long process.
road.
Yeah, that's not an easy thing to come back from.
So with that being said, he was in the ARCA Menards race, so we have the results from that event that was held at the Talladega Motor Speedway. And we have, the winner was Corey Heim, followed by Dave Mader third. Nick Sanchez was third. Drew Doler was fourth. Brett Holmes fifth. Thad Maffitt was sixth. Andy Jankowick was seventh. Kyle C. was eighth. Eric Cordell ninth. And Scott Milton rounding out the top 10. The Cup Series was there as well, but before we get into that, there was a driver who was not eligible to run. NASCAR President Steve Phelps said NASCAR's competition department, which I believe is the Department of One, their leadership felt that Jennifer's Joe Cobb was not ready to compete at a Cup race at Talladega. Now,
Now, their reasoning behind that, because you ran at
Sorry.
Daytona, you said, right?
Yeah.
So what was the reasoning behind that?
It's like they don't need a reason. It's NASCAR politics. Now, we all know,
but keep in mind, she's a she.
yeah.
I mean, they should have did everything they could to get her in that race, right?
Exactly. In 2012 or
I
2013,
mean, that's, girl power right there.
I went out and purchased a Whelen modified touring driver's license, and I was not even informed that my license was not being allowed as a driver until I showed up at a racetrack with my receipt saying I still didn't get my license. And they said, oh no, the competition director at the time, Brett Bodine, had said that I was ineligible to drive a modified because I had zero open wheel experience. And in his own words, when we had a little conference call about it, he said if I was looking to do the K&N Pro Series or a full fended series, it'd be a different story. It did not matter that I had practiced a modified at Thompson, turned lap times that put me in the top 15 in their times, and they had allowed a woman, female driver, who had zero experience in modifieds as well, but said she raced in one of the other touring series, and I could not find her listed anywhere. And when I brought that up, they said, we're not talking about her, we're talking about you.
Yeah, that'll
So it becomes politics, in my opinion.
Well, that's true. It did happen. I mean, I had wanted to run in the Sportsman Series, which back in the day was a series that ran limited events like the Busch North.
Yeah.
But it was called the Sportsman Division.
Right.
And they were running south. So I called up to find out about purchasing a car and see who might be selling stuff. And I was told by the race director to call Rick Mast and Tiger Tom Pistone, and I had all of these, he gave me all these guys' phone numbers.
Yep.
So I called up a bunch of guys, and then we took some time, went down there, and looked at some cars, and one of the guys I was buying the car from, looking at the car from, he said, come to the track with us, we're racing this week. at Charlotte. Come to the track, and you can take the car out for practice.
Yeah.
When I got there, the same guy who gave me all the phone numbers said, you can't take that car out.
Right.
So needless to say, the guy who I went to the track with was very upset that I was not able to purchase that car from him.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it happens, but anyway. The Camping World Truck Series, they were off. They will be at Kansas on Friday night, and the Cup race was held at Daytona. Wow, where am I today? Celebrating a little too early,
Talladega.
show 450. Talladega, I could say that. So
Talladega.
the Talladega. But before we go into that, we have some pictures of the Joey Logano flip that took place at Daytona, the big one, and that was the biggest one. And Joey Logano they all got just crunched up. You know, they're running bumper to bumper to bumper to bumper to bumper, and he was up and at him, just missing the 3 car there. When he landed, he only flipped once. Here, Bubba Wallace is headed right for him. This is like out of a video game, this view.
It is, right? That's exactly a video game.
And the next shot, I believe, he's like right at the windshield. He barely touched the car. A piece of the roof was what he caught. That could have been ugly. That could have been really ugly there. But there he is, up in the air. And Joey Logano, when he got out of the infield care center, he was very upset and angry. He said, and I don't know what he meant by this, but he said, I don't want to end up like wow, who did he say?
Ryan Newman?
Yes, thank you. It's just drawing a blank. He didn't want to end up like Ryan Newman did at Daytona. And Ryan Newman walked away, thank God, but he hates Talladega. As so do a lot of other drivers come out and voicelessly say that we hate this place and we're not going to do this anymore. But of course, they all show up and do it.
They all show up for the points. I mean, what are you going to do?
To take, and in my opinion, eliminate the restrictor plates, let the drivers drive their race cars, eliminate some of the aero on it, because these things are missiles. They're rocket ships going through the air.
Once they get sideways, though, they're just airborne.
Exactly.
You get a little bit of air under them. Oh,
Get a little bit of air underneath it, and up it goes.
It's like throwing a piece of paper.
Yeah.
It's just up it goes.
So anyway, thank God he walked away with just a scratch or so, but that could have been real.
That was a scary thing right there.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And the results at the Talladega Superspeedway went like this. Jeb Burton, I'm sorry, I had the Xfinity is next. Jeb Burton was the winner of the Xfinity race. Austin Cindric was second. A.J. Allmendinger third. Riley Herbst fourth. Ryan Sieg fifth. Noah Gragson sixth. Brandon Brown seventh. Justin Haley eighth. Matt Schneider was ninth. And Harrison Burton rounded out the top 10. So that was an uneventful race from what I saw of it. For sometimes they just get in that line and it's a parade without music.
Yeah. Well, that's always what happens, right?
Yeah. Anyway, Cup results. Just right sooner or later. In a crazy final lap, Brad Keselowski pulls out the win with William Byron second, Michael McDowell third, Kevin Harvick fourth, Matt DiBenedetto fifth, Kaz Grala sixth, Tyler Reddick seventh, Austin Dillon was eighth, Ryan Blaney ninth, and Cole Custer rounding out the top 10. So they're off to Kansas this weekend. They go to Kansas, and the Cup will be on Sunday, and the Camping World Truck Series will be on Saturday night. And the Whelen Modified Tour was scheduled to open up at the Stafford Motor Speedway in Connecticut for the annual Spring Sizzler. It was postponed due to a weather forecast, and 95% chance of rain. So they just canceled the Sunday portion of the show, which was the tour event. The tour race will run at the Stafford Motor Speedway this Friday night. But when we coming up, so it'll be interesting. Big difference running on a Sunday afternoon and a Friday night. But my hat's off to the Stafford Motor Speedway for making a decision early and saving these guys.
That's always a good thing.
Anyway, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, we're gonna reminisce about some of the guests that we had on our show over the years and some of the people that made this possible when we come back.
Village Music Shop of Mastic, 1-800-HEY-DUDE, your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Hey, what's... Oh, I was going to say what's up for some reason. Hey, we're Set It Up, and you're watching the Inravio TV network.
Hi there, this is Buddy from Less Than Jake, and you are listening to Inravio TV. You're probably watching it too.
Welcome back. Hey, take virtual lessons with Village Music Shop's online university. Be safe, have fun, and play music. Give them a call at 1-800-HEY-DUDE or click on the link in the chat to sign up and get started today. If you guys got kids, it's a great, fun way for them, something positive for them to do that's very safe. So give them a call.
Yes, Village Music Shop. If it wasn't for Village Music Shop, we probably wouldn't be here.
You're probably right.
Already. Anyway.
And apparently, they say the 450 party started early.
It did.
So.
It did. Yeah.
And apparently, Joey also flipped an iRacing on Wednesday, and he flipped on Sunday, too. So I guess he wanted to do synchronized flipping.
Synchronized flipping. Yes, Jay Slice, my man. That was his name in the old chat room, Jay Slice.
Yeah, I think he would have learned something by flipping on Wednesday going, I'm not going to do that again. Yeah. So did he smack himself in the head? Was he like beating himself in the head on Sunday when he did it again?
Yeah, oh well. Anyway, we want to take a look back at some of the people who made this happen, or helped make it happen, I should say, with their support. Here we are there. We have Jimmy. Oh, why am I not remembering names tonight? Holy cow. Yeah. Anyway, he drives legend cars in Bethel.
He drives legend cars in Bethel.
It'll come to me.
We'll get to you a bit later.
Jimmy Sylvester. Oh my God, Jimmy, I'm sorry. He was one of those guys who started here on Long Island in a legend car, went up to Bethel Motor Speedway, and great success there.
He did well. Yeah, he was doing pretty good.
He's like the guy to beat every week, except when Jeff Otto's there. When Jeff Otto's there, there's a good, and the Petersons when they go up as well. So that was a good one there. So we'll bring up the next guy. I'll remember this person's name. That's he's hard to forget. Freddie Kraft, my cousin. Freddie Kraft was on our show. We did a live interview with him at the Wall Stadium in New Jersey. Freddie is currently working as a spotter for Darrell Bubba Wallace in the 2311 race team that is owned by Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick, oh my God. We're really doing
Michael
good today. We're really doing good today.
I'm just letting him go. Look how ready he is. Look at the screen. Look how ready he is.
Michael Jordan.
Oh my God.
From the NBA.
Look how ready he is.
Look how ready I am. Oh my goodness. Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin.
Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin.
Denny Hamlin. What is going on today? Another one we had a good show with is Alan Peterson. He was a Legends winner there at Bethel the night we were there. Mm-hmm. And he has been on our show numerous times. He was a New York State champion, I believe, not in 2020, 2019. So he's done very well. And not only is he as well as a race car driver, he is studying engineering in college and has made the dean list.
I think that's the other Peterson.
No, that's this one. And he plays golf.
Alan?
Yeah,
Alan plays golf.
Yeah.
But the other Audie is doing the engineering.
The engineering, that's right, because he's a fabricator.
Right, he's a fabricator. And
so we'll talk about him in a little bit too.
It's like the whole, they got it all covered.
450 was a big one, I'm telling you. There was a lot of shows, a lot of stuff to remember. Oh, who do we got next coming up here? We're going to Ray Mortuano. And I said that right because he always said I said his name wrong. Ray was a flagger at the old Islip Speedway for many, many, many years, and also when the Cromedies took over the Long Island's Riverhead Raceway. He was a flagger there for a while, and then just one day hung it up. Always a fan of our show. Always shows up at the Himes Museum's Nostalgia Day. Great stories. You could sit with him for hours and hear the stories over and over again. Great time with Ray. Johnny Bush. Johnny Bush, Wheeling Modified Tour driver, started as a figure-8 driver in the 70s. Johnny, a local Long Island guy. Never saw much success on the tour, but he was one of those guys that showed up just about every week and did what he had to do. So it was all good there with Johnny. Good friend of mine, goes back. Marty Himes.
Marty Himes.
What can you say about Marty?
He's the guy. He's the knowledge guy, right? The book of knowledge.
You know, it's if you've never been to Marty's museum,
you have to go.
You have to go, and don't think you're gonna go there in an hour.
Everything is there.
Yeah.
You got to spend a couple hours there, and if you're
At
not,
least.
you know, it's just so much to see.
And if you name a driver from the old days when you were a kid, the 50s, 60s, 70s, he'll go like this. He'll go,
I got some.
and he'll go and he'll come out with something from that driver, whether it's a fire suit, a helmet, a glove, something. Forget about the thousands and thousands of pictures he has out in the garage, which you could spend the whole day just looking at the pictures.
Yeah.
So,
And if you go there, you know, give him a good, you know, a good bean there, because
yeah.
last thing we want to do, we want to keep him off the roof. He's 80 years
Yeah,
old,
he's still
and
climbing
he's
up
up
the
there
roof.
climbing on the roof, fixing the roof himself.
Yep.
You know, toss him a bone, so you know, keep him off the roof.
Yeah, and here's a guy that needs no introduction, Elite Cookie Visconti. Cookie was, he won a championship just about in everything he drove. He was good, but what Cookie is going to be best remembered for is he brought corporate sponsorship to the weekly short tracks. His sponsorship with AMSOIL back in his late model days was incredible. Nobody believed that. How did you get that? How did you get that? Never mind how he got it. He got it. You know, so, you know, Cookie Visconti, good friend of mine, and I got to share a little story with Cookie. When I had my foot reconstructed back in 2017, Cookie called me every day. How you doing? What do you need? I'll send somebody over. And he wasn't just doing it, you know, to talk smack. If I said, Cook, I need this, it would have been there. If I needed somebody to come over and hang out, he would have got there somehow. So, you know, Cookie, his passing was way too soon. He's missed by a lot of people. So, and big fan of our show. And when we did an interview with him, when we asked him how old he was kind of like me. He said, I'm not 70. Remember that? Yeah, you were, Cook. You were 70 when you did that show. So, you know, I know he's watching from up ahead. Ryan Priest. Ryan Priest actually got his start in modifieds, in the Wheeling Modified Tour Series with a family car, and then he lucked out. He hooked up with a man named Eddie Partridge, who gave him everything he needed. He went out, and I believe Ryan Priest was a champion. He was a champion, I believe, in 2011, and he moved on to the Cup Series, and he's doing kind of not too bad.
He's doing not bad. He's representing pretty well. You know,
So-
he's doing very well. I'm kind of proud of him.
Yeah, I remember a race that he had, and I believe it was at Stafford. He was running second to Todd Zegedy, and the white flag came out, and Ryan gave him a good shot, gave Zegedy a good shot and won. And Zegedy went around. Ryan Priest crosses the line first. They put him to the back of the pack for rough riding. And he sat in his car for a long time. And I walked over to him, and I sat on the Nerf bar, and I said, you know, Ryan, your day's going to come. Be patient. And I'm telling you, if you stay patient and keep just being in the hunt for the win, you're going to end up in Cup one day. And a couple of years ago, he came to Riverhead Raceway, and we were talking. And he said, remember when you said that to me? I thought you were full of it. But here I am. Mm-hmm. So Ryan Priest, good guy, good kid. Yeah, Jesse Little. Jesse Little was a guest on our show. Jesse Little is the son of former Rouse Racing driver Chad Little. Jesse runs Xfinity and the Camping World Truck Series. Jesse called us called in. It was tough for him to do a show from Cheryl's Ford, North Carolina.
Yep.
So he came in and did a show via phone, and it was a good time. We had a lot of good fun with Jesse and talking about his racing. And back then, he was one of our early people, guests. He goes, hey, someday I hope to be running in what is now the Xfinity Series, and he has. And he's running the Truck Series, so I wish him continued success along the way. So, and here, Timmy, the natural Salamino. Timmy got his starts in the go-karts here on Long Island, and he's a Whelen Modified Tour driver. One of those guys, he's like the guy to beat. In the past when he was running for the Flamingo Motorsports, now he's in a family deal, and it's race by race. When you're running a family car with, little sponsorship, it's tough to show up to all the races. So, but I think it's going to fall in place for Timmy, and Timmy, and for show 400 did a little thing for us, thanking us on video. So that was a good deal for Timmy as well. So thanks, Tim. And this is a show I'll never forget. That's John JV Visconti with Mike Jarecki. JV was a guest on our show. JV is an ARCA Menard Series East team owner with his wife Marie. And we just wanted to make JV feel at home with the helicopters flying over his head. One of the funniest shows that we ever had, and it's still talked about in the circle, so to speak, when we talk about the show and we talk racing. And there's people that he now work for him down in North Carolina. He'll say to them, Joe, tell them, because they don't believe me about that show. And I tell them, and they're on the floor laughing. So I want to thank JV for being a part of that comedy that day. We had a good time with him. Ted Christopher, it's Teddy and I at the Stafford Motor Speedway in Connecticut. Teddy was a good friend of mine. He was a 2008 Whelen Modified Tour champion. Lost his life in a plane crash flying to Long Island to race. A shocker. A shocker. He's won just about everywhere he's gone. He's the winningest driver at the Stafford Motor Speedway. And when you look back at Teddy, he was, like I said, he was a 2008 Whelen Modified Tour champion. And he was one of those guys that you feared on the racetrack. You feared him. But off the racetrack, he could be one of the nicest guys. In fact, every night after a race, on his way home, he stopped for an ice cream cone. And it was just, he's one of those guys. And I could remember people every week in and week out, complaining about his aggressive style. He didn't wreck you. He was just aggressive. And you had this thing in your head when you looked in your mirror. It was like seeing Dale Earnhardt in your mirror. And he got out of the car after winning. He's in his trailer, and he goes, everybody in this series, they need a Kleenex sponsor for all the crying they do, for their tears. And, and that was the most I ever saw him upset. Like, he didn't go screaming and yelling. He just, they need a Kleenex sponsor, these guys, always crying. So, Ted Christopher, he was a good guy, and like I said, he was a very good friend of mine. It was a tough loss. Tough loss.
It was tough for everybody.
Frank Bonsignor. Frank Bonsignor works for Chip Ganassi Racing. He had called in to the show from North Carolina and had a nice chat with us in regards to his team's success the previous week and how he got to where he is. I've known Frank, I'm going to say, over 20 years. And when my daughter Jessica was running Champ Karts, he was the motor builder, and she took down 2 championships with Motion Pro Race Engines, which was Frank Bonsignor, a good guy, a real good guy. Bruce Edwards, good friend of the show, good friend of mine. We go back 40 years, I would say, and that's as like buddies. But back in the 70s and 80s at ISO Speedway, he had the most immaculately prepared late models, or they called them street stocks back then. And Dale Earnhardt actually drove one of his cars and re-skinned it, or lettered it, or painted it to look like the blue and yellow Wrangler 3.
Right.
So Bruce has been around racing a long time, and I thank him for his support over the years as well. And before we go to break. The last one we're going to go is Burt Myers. Burt Myers, he was again when we had, remember the 2-hour shows we used to do in the beginning?
2-hour shows, yeah.
He was one of the guys. I was a tour official at I believe it was Caraway, and I asked him if he could call into the show, and he goes, "Oh, when is it? How much time? What are we going to talk about?" I said, "It's on Monday nights, and can you call?" And he goes, "Well, Monday nights we're in the shop. I got to check on my dad." Okay, I can respect that. He goes, "Call me Monday, remind me." So I called him. He goes, "Look, Dad said I could do the show." He goes, but I can only be on for like 10, 15 minutes. Bert, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Blah, 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 because we were trying to get some credibility to our show with some of the drivers we had on in the beginning. So, so Bert calls me up, and like I said, we had a 2-hour show. He was on for over an hour. And when I saw him at the next race, I said, "What happened to 15 minutes? He goes, "Well, Daddy was watching." And he kept saying, "No, stay, keep," because he promoted not only his car, his team, his sponsors, but he talked about his family in racing, as his dad and his uncle and his brother, and his father was loving it, and they've been fans of the show ever since.
Well, we talk about that all the time with the free interviews that we do in the beginning of the year. You can't. How can you pass that up?
Right.
I mean, people are scampering to try to get those interviews because there's only a handful of them.
Yep.
And it doesn't cost you nothing, but you get to talk about all your stuff and get it out there. That's great exposure for your sponsors.
It is. And Bill Batch.
And a good thank you for your crew, too.
Yeah, and Bill Batch, 22 Figure 8, he remembers those 2-hour shows where I played music. Remember we played music during the breaks?
That's right.
We played, then we were told we couldn't play some of the music.
Well, we were taking it to the next level.
Yes, we were. Yes,
And you couldn't play music at the next level.
Oh, well. Anyway, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to go talk about some more of the guests that helped us along the way from show 1 to show 450 when we come back.
Hey guys, this is Jibs from Ocean's 8 Alaska, and you're watching Inravio TV Network.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
Hi, I'm Remington.
I'm Emerson.
And I'm Sebastian. We're Palais Royale, and you're watching Inravio TV.
There we go.
Hey, this is Chris Les Jake, and if Inravio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
Hi, this is Mike Jarecki from My Race News, and you're watching the Inravio TV Network.
I love that intro with the car going onto the track from the Wall Stadium down in Wall, New Jersey. Anyway, back to the folks. Here we have Ronnie Silk. Ronnie Silk was one of those guys. He was the 2011 Wheeler Modified champion. I had said somebody else earlier. Ronnie was one of those guys again in a family team, and moved on to drive for other people along the way, and was very successful. He was one of those guys, very quiet demeanor, but when he called into the show, he was a different Ron Silk than I talked to at the racetrack. So we appreciate what Ron did for us and helping us out back then. This show was emotional. That's Sal Liccardi Sr. and Sal Liccardi Jr. Sal Sr. was very ill in the hospital. I don't know if you remember that one. And
I remember.
We talked to him from his hospital bed. And we talked for quite some time, talking about the old days and the old tracks and the old drivers. And I was trying to, and I don't want to say rush him off, because he had a lot to say and it was a good show, but what we did was, I was trying to follow my script, my schedule, so to speak, what I was supposed to do. And we just kept him on and because he just kept talking as well as his son. And there's nothing better in my mind than a father-son involvement in racing. I didn't have that, and when I see that, I really feel good and I feel happy for them. Well, Mr. Liccardi, Sal Sr., when he was getting ready to hang up, he started to cry. And he said, thanks for remembering us old guys that made it happen. And, you know, when that show ended, driving home that night, I said to myself, we made a difference in somebody's life today.
Yeah, and that's important. That's kind of what we do with this.
You know, we made a difference.
When you race with family or, you know, somebody who's that close, that's a big deal. You know, it's more of a social involvement than it is just a competitive thing.
Yeah.
You know, even though my brother, he knew nothing about racing, he came down to the track, I enjoyed racing with him. I mean, Bonnie, you know, I enjoyed racing with her, you know.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that it was, you know, all right, so maybe they didn't know a lot about what we were doing, but, you know, it's that connection that you make,
Yeah,
you know.
it is. And you make lifelong friends at the racetrack. Sometimes you make lifelong enemies. And, you know, people say, oh, you know, you burned another bridge. All right, so we burned the bridge. But you know what? For every bridge that was burned, I probably created 20 more, and yourself included,
Possibly.
along the way, you know?
But you know what? The idea is, as long as you're not hurting anybody.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You try not to hurt anybody. You know, you're not going to be everybody's friend.
Right.
You're not going to be everybody's friend. You know?
Anyway, this is, again, one of my favorite shows. We were doing this guest co-host thing, and my daughter Jessica, I picked her up. We went out, had a nice dinner. We talked. She goes, what do I have to say? Oh, nothing, you're good, just sit there, you know. Like we're having a conversation about racing at a bar, at the kitchen table, on the patio. And we were talking, and again, that was a 2-hour gig too. And I said, when we come back, we'll have back then, the nationwide results be given by my daughter Jessica. And Jessica's sitting there, and then we go to break. She goes, Dad, I can't say the names. I'm afraid. Blah, blah. Just, it's going to be up on the monitor. Just read it. Just read it as it goes. But Dad, and all of a sudden, you know, cut in the control room. All right, you're back live. 3, 2. And I said, all right, here we got Jessica with the nationwide results. And Jessica named like the first 3 or 4. And she goes, listen, if you want the rest, go to Nascar.com and you'll see where they finished. And I was like shaking my head. But we had a fun time that night, and you know, there's no secret. My daughter drove my race cars for a few years, and that was, you know, my sons didn't get involved with racing. My one son, my oldest boy, he went into the Army right after high school. My son Joe did the same thing. My son Joe raced go-karts and champ karts, and you know, we had a lot of good father-son there, but the father-daughter time I had with Jessica. And we raced a lot. We raced Medford on Friday nights. We raced Riverhead on Sundays. We raced West Hampton sometimes on Sundays. We spent a lot of time together. And the other good part about it is my garage was set up to play with go-karts and champ karts. And I would say probably once a week, we went to Tommy Bonson, your shop in Deer Park, and scaled it up, put the lasers on it, made sure nothing was bent. And that time that we spent together, that was priceless.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. With the time you spend with family at the track. And you know what? You don't remember the bad times where you had the accident or you this broke or that broke or you had to fix this or you had something or other with somebody else or whatever. You don't really remember those things too much unless they're big. But I mean, you know, it's all about family.
It is.
It really is. And it's, you know what? It's something about, I don't know what it is about the racing and the family thing.
It's
it
just,
really, you know, I remember those times fondly.
Yeah.
You know?
It was, and really, not to go off my subject, you know, my dad thought racing was a waste of time, waste of money, waste of energy. And we had a big Father's Day race at the Medford Speedway in Medford, Long Island. And both my son Joe and my daughter Jessica were in the points, you know, so and Jessica was like, you know, like right there in the first or second in points. And I said to my mother, we're not going to be there Father's Day for dinner. I'm sorry. We'll come Saturday. We'll come next week, whatever. We're racing. And all of a sudden, I see my dad and mom walking into the pit area. I was like, shocked. Now, we had a nice enclosed trailer. I had a food sponsor. The food was laid out nice. And they spent the day with us. And later on during the week, my dad was like, I didn't realize how family-orientated racing is. And so, I thank him for taking the opportunity to see that.
To notice it, yeah.
And my kids never forgot that. You know, Grandpa and Grandma, they came to the race to see us.
That's
that was
really nice,
that was a good one. That was good.
That's like going to see somebody's football game or whatever it may be, you know.
Yeah, now here's Roger Roxy. That was right after he ran his last late model race here on Long Island in his trailer. You can see my crutch. I was still on crutches.
I was there for that.
yeah. You know, I was still on crutches and having my foot reconstructed. Roger Roxy, I got to tell you, out of all the drivers that I've interacted with over the years, I have the utmost respect for that man. And him and I, we didn't always see eye to eye. But at the end of the night or the next day, we had a mutual respect for each other. And, you know, it's one of those guys that, you know, when you're the head guy, the big cheese at a racetrack, everybody's calling you up, inviting you to parties, you know, I'm telling you to come down and have a beer, whatever. And when I left there and moved on to the Modified Tour, there's only a handful of guys that still kept in touch. Roger Oxy, and I left that racetrack. My last race as an official at Riverhead was September of 02. And Roger Oxy still to this day, still touches base with me. And he gets the award for driving the furthest to be a guest on our show from Fishkill, New York to our Mastic studio here. And it's a good 2.5 to 3 hour ride, one way.
Yeah. And he comes by pickup truck.
Yeah.
That's not a smooth ride.
Yeah. So, you know, and we appreciate
that.
And Roger's another one. He gave us a little credibility and he spread the word and, you know, he helped us out along the way. So I thank Roger.
Absolutely.
Here we got Tommy Rogers Jr. Tommy was a guest on our show. Tommy Rogers is, and he is the winningest modified driver in Long Island history.
Really?
He's surpassed the late, great Charlie J. This kid, I call him a kid because I remember when he started, he was just a kid. This gentleman has won in everything he's driven easily. And I can remember there was a night when I had the blunderbuss car, my daughter just racing it. She didn't feel good. I said, well, you're in the top 10 in points. And there were like 40 blunderbuss at the time. I said, take the green, first caution, come in, I'll get somebody in. Now, we're kind of limited because Jess was like, 5'1", short. So I'm looking around the pit area. There's not a lot of guys that could fit in a seat and reach the pedals. It was Tommy Rogers. So I went over to him, Tom, if my daughter comes in, can you hop in the seat and finish? Well, they shut the gate on us. We went 2 laps down. And Tommy not only made up the 2 laps, but we finished like 15th.
Wow.
The guy could drive he could drive a wheelbarrow and win. So, Tommy was good. He came on to our show, and we had some good laughs with Tommy. Dave Brigatti. There's a guy, he's another one of those guys. He's a multi-time champion in multi-divisions at multiple racetracks. Now, that's not by luck. you got to be good. You got to be good. His crew has been with him almost since day one. His operation is a family operation, and and his family, they're good people, and it's just one of those race teams that, at the track it's all business, it's all serious. On the outside, he's one of those guys that's helped more drivers at the racetrack, including my race teams, just by doing them a small favor. You get to the track and there's a set of tires waiting for you on Dave. So thanks for supporting our show, and he was one of those guys. He didn't realize what we were doing. Brett Hearn, winningest driver on dirt. He is one of those drivers he had been around since the 70s, racing, the dirt modifieds, the dirt sportsman cars, winning just about everywhere and anything that he got into. He is currently the Orange County Fair Speedway's director of racing there, taking over for Ken Sands, who was we interviewed for our show.
He couldn't stop calling.
Yes.
Couldn't shut him up.
No. Oh, the good old days, And then we have Earl Paulus. Earl Paulus, he's one of those guys. He's another one. He's won in just about everything he raced. He races primarily in Pennsylvania, and he's into sport mods, but there's just not a lot of them out there. And I would love to see him on the Whelen Modified Tour. I think he'd be a staunch, tough competitor. The Petersons, Artie Jr., Artie III, and Alan. When we had the boys on the show one time, and they were talking about how they met a guy in school, and they had a Riverhead shirt on, and they were like, "Oh, you go to Riverhead?" He goes, "Yeah, we go to Riverhead." And the guy says, "Those Petersons, they're great. I can't wait to meet them." And Alan says, "We are the Petersons." So when he said that story on the show, it was a good laugh. And his dad, I've known his dad for years and years and years, and that's another family operation. And I've been to their shop on numerous occasions. And when you're in their shop, you're like family, and they'll do anything for you,
Well, that's what racing is. It's a family. It's a tight-knit family.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times we've been, we've done for other people as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Bob Finan, bird's eye view there at the racetrack. Bob Finan is involved and been an announcer for 44 years at multiple tracks, including ISO Speedway, Riverhead Raceway, and plus at the request of the late Big Bob O'Rourke, other racetracks where Bob needed a flagger. He started actually as a flagger in New Egypt. A lot of people don't know that. But he's been around for 44 years and was on one of our anniversary shows. And it was one of those days, it was a 2-hour event, that Roger Oxley was coming, stuck in traffic. Somebody else was coming, Jarecki. He was stuck on the train. And we ended up having an hour talk with Bobby just about the time, or just before the time that the racetrack was being renovated or changed over by the new owner. So one of those blessings in disguise is along the way. Anyway, we're going to take a break after this one. Derek Perniciglio. He's Speed Sport News.
That was at the Hymes Museum.
That was at the Hymes Museum. Derek, I've known Derek through racing for a few years, and he's been a big help to me, so to speak, when I call on him for advice or, how do we do this? What do we do? Can we do that? Can we not do that? So Derek's a good guy, so I want to thank him for his support over the years. Anyway, we're going to take a break, and we're going to talk about some other guests that we had on the show over the years when we come back.
Village Music Shop of Mastic. 1-800-HEY-DUDE. Your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop. 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Hey, I'm Raul Panther.
And I'm Commander B. Hawkins.
And I'm Mark Willett. We're some of the proto men. If we see you without this bracelet, you're punching the But if you have this bracelet from Inravio.com, you can win $100.
Put one of these on.
Or else.
What's up, guys? This is Assuming We Survive, and you're watching Inravio TV Network.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to the show.
Yeah,
Reminiscing over 9 years worth of guests and.
Yeah, you know, somebody had posted, you know, what about Mike Stefanik? Mike Stefanik was never a guest on our show.
Yep, never made it.
And not that he wasn't asked; it was just he was never a guest. And this is about the people, the drivers, the crew people, the people involved with racing who were guests on our show, one way or another. So, anyway, who do we got? Ralph Shaheen. This one was the biggest surprise to me. He did this little spurt for us for show 350. Ralph, he just, I just was in shock when he did that. From Speed Sport, Derek Pernisiglia was a part of his Speed Sport show and whatnot, and Ralph congratulated us. And, you know, when you can get congratulations from a guy like that, you're doing something right. And, you know, and don't get me wrong, I don't do this all by myself. I have a lot of help. I just talk. I have a lot of help, and we'll get into that in a little bit.
Well, I mean, for 400, we had Mike from ESPN, right?
Yeah.
Mike Massaro?
Yeah. So, you know,
we had him.
We did okay. We did okay over the years. What do we got? There's my man, WJ, Walter Johnson. Walter was my biggest fan and my biggest critic. And he was one pain in the butt sometimes. He didn't like the way the chat room looked. He didn't like this. He didn't like that. But that was Walter. Mm-hmm. If he wasn't complaining about something, there was something
wrong.
Something wrong. And you know, we did a show for him shortly after he passed away. I think it was the day he passed away. We had an empty chair here, and that was WJ. And I said from that day forward he would not miss an anniversary show, and I've honored that word. There he was just now. WJ, founder of MyRaceNews.com, who, when he passed, it was passed on to Michael Giorgetti, who took it to the next level. And so My Race News goes on and on and on, and in memory. And as Artie Peterson Jr. said, Walter was a good man. He sure was. And Bill Bash, the most fun was the back and forth with JV in the chat room, or WJ, I should say, in the chat room. Jimmy Rennick Jr. with Michael Giorgetti. Jimmy Rennick, big supporter of our show in more ways than one. And Jimmy runs a Super Pro truck here on Long Island and is also a modified team owner. He had purchased a modified, and he has somebody driving it for him. So we wish him well in this year, this season, 2021. This is one that we backed into this interview. Congressman Lee Zeldin. We were at the Long Island Needs a Drag Strip rally at Tanner Park in Copiague, Long Island. He is the congressman in the 1st Congressional District in Long Island, New York, and was a big supporter of Long Island Needs a Drag Strip. But as we've said on this show, and as he said, you need to find a place. You need to do the steps you have to take.
You need to come up with a proposal.
Exactly. They're not just going to say.
They're not just going to pull one out of the hat for you and say, go race over here.
And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm going to. Lee Zeldin is campaigning to be the next governor of New York State under the Republican line, so we wish him well, a friend of 5 Off, 5 On. He was actually going to make arrangements. We were trying to make arrangements for him to be on the show live. Then we were going to go do it in his office, and things got, really busy for everybody. So
he's actually from this area, you know that, right?
He's from this area.
He grew up in this area.
Yeah, so again, we wish him well in his endeavors, and we thank him for his support on our show. So it's all good. It's all good. And here we got Jimmy Blewett. Jimmy Blewett has raced and won in just about everything he's driven on dirt and asphalt. He was on the tour, ran different modified touring series, and his home track down in Wall, where his dad, John Blewett Jr., and his brother, the late John Blewett III, raced. And I saw him. I went down into Egypt and watched him run down there too as well. Another a good guy, good guy to racing. And he even ran up here in Long Island. And before I met him personally, I heard that, don't mess with Jimmy Blewett. And I found out he was the most fun-loving guy that I could ever talk with. So
yeah.
That was good. Again, Michael Jarecki, myracenews.com. He's actually sat in and did a show for me one time.
I think he sat in and did a show, yeah.
So we had a good time with Mike over the years. And like I said, he's taken myracenews.com to the next level. And here's another good one coming up. This guy was on our show. He was on an anniversary show. It was a 2-hour show. And in the back room, where we had a little food in between, show 1 and show 2, he just had us laughing, hysterical. And when I look back at that show, and I'm looking for my notes on him, because I don't want to get anything wrong. Glenn Sullivan, he was a Long Island guy, raced, Ice Up, Riverhead was involved, owned cars, sponsored cars, did all kinds of good things. But the stuff he said in that back room, we wish there was a mic. And he kept saying, there's no mics back here, are there?
Well, yeah, because it was inside
Oof,
racing.
Way inside.
So it was way inside racing. There's things you do not really want to know.
Yeah, well, you want to know, but
you really don't want to know.
You really don't want to know. And that was
once you hear it, you can't unhear it.
You can't unhear it, and you can't share it. So thank you, Glenn. But in that picture that with him was Tyler Dipple, one of his drivers along the way. So I want to thank him. Here we are. That's JV, John Visconti. Again, we mentioned him earlier when he was in the picture. John and I, we go back a long way, and he's showing some success with his Arkham Menard's East car. With a couple of good finishes, a second and third and whatnot. So I want to thank him for being a part and trying to make us laugh and enjoy this and over the years. And we wish him well. WJ again, that's from an anniversary show when we did it in Studio A, when it was like a living room setup, where we laid out some of my stuff and my helmet and some books and some pictures and whatnot and plaques. So we had a good time with that. And here we are, again, Marty Himes in his museum. We try to go to his reunion show all the time, and it's a fun day. And
well, we gave him a plaque.
We gave him a plaque.
So you remember, we missed it, right?
Yeah.
Because March 3rd, right? 3/3 is Marty Himes Day.
When we called it, right, officially Marty Himes Day, and we gave him a nice plaque. So that was all good. All good.
Yep.
Jimmy, oh my God, this one, this was a tough one because I thought about, do I put it in, do I not put it in? And Jimmy Kelly, the late Jimmy Kelly, he just a few months back passed from the COVID. And very successful racing career over the years. Co-founder of Livars, Long Island Vintage Auto Racing.
Yeah.
And he had an immaculately prepared modified that looked exactly like the modified he ran, the 22 car. So he was a great guest, a good racing buddy, and he is sorely missed by Livars and as well as others. So good guy. Again, Tommy Rogers Jr., he came across with this sense of humor that you don't see at a racetrack. Because at a racetrack, he's all racing, but when he was on our show, he had us cracking up. So Tommy Rogers Jr., good guy. Harry Weed, when he was on our show.
I remember Harry.
We had a good time with Harry. Harry is a sprint car driver in New England from Long Island. Always told me he was going to get me a ride in a sprint car, so I guess we're still working on that. But we had some fun with him as well. And we have Mike Gravel Buska. Mike and I go back a long, long way. Mike's one of my closest friends. He was one of those guys that's always there for his friends, and I'm one of them. And I'm going to share a story. There's actually two. My mom passed away in 2006, and my mom was in the school board in Babylon. My brothers and my brother-in-law were firemen in the fire department. My mom had been on the school board for 18 years, and between my brother's fire department and work friends and her school people and all the teachers, administrators, and my UPS partners, there were thousands of people at my mother's wake. And it's the first session we had, I think it was 2 days and 2 nights. And I said to somebody, I said, if one more person says, if you need anything, let me know, I'm going to bust. Because you know when you lose somebody, they don't know what to say, so that's what they say. So I said, the next person that asks me that, I'm going to tell them there's no insurance and I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. Because that was my way of interjecting without getting emotional. So Mike's standing there, his hands in his pocket, he goes, bummer. Yeah. For the night session, he was one of the first persons there, people there, and we came with his wife. And he goes, where's the funeral director? I said, probably in his office. He goes, oh, take a walk with me. We walk into the guy's office. He takes his American Express card. Whatever this guy needs, he's my friend, to pay for the funeral. Now, you know I felt like this big.
Because you said she's got no insurance to pay for the funeral.
And he wasn't doing that just for BS. He gave the man his American Express card and said, pay for this. That's a true friend, and I will never forget that. And another fun time we had, I want to end on a fun time with Gravel, it was I believe his first year as an official, and they used to have this officials dinner at the old LaGrange in West Islip, Long Island here. And there was a beef barley soup, but none of the racing people at our table knew what that was. So I was one for making jokes and telling stories. So I said, it looks like maggot soup. And Mike takes his bowl of soup. You're right. It's maggots. People were gagging at the table. It was beef barley soup. So him and I, we have some good memories. And don't forget the bacon, Mike. Don't forget the bacon. Yes. DJ Hickton, crew chief for a good friend of mine who went too soon, Wade Cole, who passed away last year, working on his race car. And DJ, he was one of the first guys to Skype with us on the show, and he was silverback in the chat room. And we had some really good times with the DJ, not only on the show, but at the racetracks as well. And we have Pastor Scott Craniac. Pastor Scott was on a couple of our shows with us. I believe they were anniversary shows. And every time he sees me, we embrace and he says a prayer for me. And he always mentions our show. How's the show? How's the show? And if you don't know what a track chaplain is, and he is the track chaplain, again, he's with the Racing with Jesus Ministries at the Riverhead Raceway. And I remember when he first came there, one of the heads of the Racing with Jesus Ministries, Pastor Don up in Connecticut, said, just introduce him to a few people because he's afraid of how he's going to be taken. So I took him to people that I knew would believe in his word. And and then, of course, stuff happens, and he's there for them, and he has his old Comet that at the national anthem is done. He does burnouts, and everybody loves it, and he's spreading the word, but he's there for the drivers and the teams anytime there's a situation, and he's there for the show as well. So, I want to thank Pastor Scott for all he's done. He is the pastor at the Center Reach Bible Church in Center Reach, Long Island, and has been there for quite some time. So thank you, Pastor Scott. Here we go, Patrick Emmerling. Patrick Emmerling. He was, he's a modified tour driver out of upstate New York. Very competitive guy. Was on a show. In fact, he was on a show with his crew chief on our show. I'm going to say it was August of 2013. And I don't want to get into why they were on the show, but it was the Monday after I left the tour because of personal reasons, and it involved his car, and because there was some issues with his crew chief and the series director.
With his crew chief.
Mm-hmm. And every time a car spun on the racetrack, aggressive driving by Patrick Emmerling, put him in the back, he could be like 5 cars away from the guy. Put him in the back, put him in the back. And, what are you going to do? You go in the back or you get off. So, we had a nice discussion about that. Patrick, a great guy. I love talking with Patrick. And we also have Tony Urbina. Tony Urbina, a longtime friend of mine who lived here on Long Island and raced late models here on Long Island.
Pitted right next to me?
Yeah, pitted right next to Chuck.
For years.
And now working at Penske.
Right.
And I'll tell you, he is one of those guys, and I say that, he was one of those guys when he ran his Charger car, and then he went up to late models. I was on his crew. He had some good sponsors and whatnot, and ran very well. He was another one that taught me what being part of a family of racing. The car was owned by him with his father-in-law, mother-in-law, and his wife, and we're always at at the house on working on the cars a couple of nights a week, and it was George and Carol Mapes, and from the day one that I went and started helping Tony, I felt like I was a part of the family. And every Saturday, mid-morning, we fine-tune everything, get it loaded up, and Carol Mapes would make us lunch, something to eat before we went, and you felt part of like something, so, and Tony and I still talk regularly, and good guy.
And in a small world, you didn't even know that you were working on the car right next to your cousin.
No, exactly, Bonnie.
And Bonnie's mom.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Didn't even know it.
Didn't know it. Oh,
didn't
man.
even know it.
We had some good times. Kenny Hyde Jr. Kenny Hyde Jr. He's runs a pro stock up at the Bethel Motor Speedway. Is a figure 8 champion here on Long Island. Came on the show. His dad and I, when I first got into racing, his dad and I think there was more purple on my car and more of my red on his father's car than we cared to talk about. So many times we won at it. We got thrown out because of our antics. And when I had my wreck in '96, it was after a 2-week suspension of something Kenny and I did on the racetrack, and then afterwards. And the first guy that came to my house was his dad. Make sure I was all right if we needed anything. And we became lifelong friends. And then, unfortunately, his dad, lost his life young to a heart attack. But Kenny was on our show, and when we had a good time with Kenny on the show when he was there.
And one of his crew members was actually one of the booth guys.
Yes. Now this picture I put in here because without this company, there'd be no 5 on racing show. There'd be no Inravio TV. There'd be no Ultimate Media. So that's my thanks to you and Bonnie. This has been like my card night. I look forward to this.
9 years, a long time.
Long time to come down here on Monday nights.
It's a lot of shows.
A lot of shows, 450. And to talk racing with racing people.
And when you think in the beginning, we used to do 2-hour shows.
2-hour shows in the other studio.
You're probably looking at like 600 hours worth of shows we did.
Easy. And you're getting thanks here in in the chat here. So
I appreciate
And again, this is Chuck's car. This is.
Oh yeah, look at that.
You know, I drew that in there because we're talking about all the people who've been on the show. You've been on the show more than anybody but me.
That's right. That's true. Whether I'm here or I'm over there or over there or in the back room, somebody's got to eat the food in the green room.
Somebody's got to eat the food in the green room. And it's funny how Chuck ended up in this seat from that seat because we were talking about a co-host. Who could be a co-host? And we talked to a couple of people. They didn't want to commit. I begged my daughter Jessica, be a co-host. We'll have fun with it. No, Dad, I don't know what I'm talking about. You know, and then one day Chuck goes, all right, let's do it. And you've been sitting here ever since.
Well, I've been very reluctant to do it just because, you know, I had another show as well. And because, you know, I don't want to try to color everybody's show. You know, one time we had, you know, 28 shows
28 shows on Inravio.
You know, 2 hours apiece. That was a lot of work. That was a lot of work. You know, and it's tough to, you know, to keep the doors open and keep the overhead going and pay the staff and everybody else to do all of the work. I mean, it's tough, you know.
It is, and you know, and a lot of people, especially people who come in to be guests here, they think we sit down, we mic up, we comb our hair, and they go in the control room, they press a couple of buttons, and we're a show. Nobody realizes what's involved with that, except for, you know, you and Bonnie, really. Yeah. And it's a lot of work. I started communicating with Bonnie probably 7 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, it was early.
Because I didn't want to wait till the last minute, you know.
Oh, you couldn't because it was too much.
It was a
lot.
lot.
And you know what? And we talked about this before, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. You know, of course, missed an opportunity there, but you know how you say to yourself, Google it, right? Well, Google's a company, and everybody, when you say Google it, it's actually a thing now, right?
Right.
It's I'm going to go do an action, so I'm going to go Google something to find something out, right?
Right.
Well, when we started this, there was no thing called streaming.
No. You were the first.
Nobody knew how to do it.
You were the first.
When I was calling for equipment and trying to find out, everybody was like, well, we don't know how to do it, but if you find out, let us know. So we actually put on Wikipedia the art of broadcasting live TV over the internet was called Inravio. It never took off.
No.
So it became streaming. But before that, nobody knew what it was. Yeah. It was all YouTube videos that people put up. Nobody did live TV.
No, nobody.
So we were right there. We were right in the forefront.
Right in the forefront, and a lot of people don't know that, you know, and as Artie Peterson Jr. said, don't forget all of the graduation ceremonies that you guys have done. Kudos.
Yeah.
There's more than this.
Almost 40 years of graduation services. I mean, when Artie's kids graduated, probably went, right, because, I mean, he worked at the school, so he knew. I think when he graduated, I was probably there. Well, think about it. I mean, Artie's not 100.
No, he's not. But, you know.
The dad's not, Artie Senior's not 100. He's got to be, you know. But I was there for almost 40 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've been a big part of the community, and that's kind of what we've always done. And that's why we came up with a plaque for Marty Heim's Day.
All he does.
You know, for everything he's done. I mean, you know, and he doesn't get a lot of recognition for what he's done. I mean,
no, he does not.
And, you know, one of the things I've always said, and this is, you know, it's funny how, and you talked about it as well, people can't find time to go do something. But when there's a funeral, they find time to go to the funeral.
Yes, they do.
You know, and it's the same thing I said with firemen all the time. I mean, we don't treat firemen and first responders. Now we do probably because of COVID. But, you know, I'm a fireman. We don't treat a lot of firemen with respect while they're here.
Right.
Give them maybe a little bit extra, maybe because they are a fireman. Give them a little bit extra leeway because they're a fireman. But you know what? When they pass away, we find time to take off from work to go there with the ladder truck and put the big flag up over the Southern State Parkway as their bodies going to the cemetery. Mm-hmm. And that's sad. That's sad for us. You know, we gotta tell people and take care of people while they're alive, while they're here. You know.
Yeah, and
that's kind of what we're trying to do here.
And Bill Batch is asking, who was the original co-host? And it was. I know there was a group before me, but when I came on, it was Henry Boston. But there were people before me, if I'm not mistaken.
Before you?
Before me.
No.
No, it was just Henry?
It was Henry.
Yeah.
No, I called you, and I called Henry. That was it.
Oh.
And somebody's saying, what about C.J. Lehman?
He was in there. He was in there with a JV pitcher.
Okay, right. He was in there with the JV.
Yeah. Anyway, we're getting the frantic waves from the control room, so that's telling us we're out of time. So I want to thank everybody for taking time out of the busy schedule and to listen to us talk about some of our former guests. We couldn't get everybody. It would be a 5-hour show. So thank you for your understanding and patience, and we'll bring them along the way.
And thank you for everybody in the chat room. I know Audie was saying thank you for graduations and stuff, and that's nice. It's nice to hear. And you know, a lot of the stuff that we've done, we couldn't do this without you guys. I mean, really, that's important because you know you guys are really bringing the numbers up for us, which is helping us to get sponsors and advertisers, which is always something that helps us to make more shows and make everything better.
And as Audie Peterson Jr. said, the racing family, there's nothing like it.
Nothing like
it. Nothing like it. And Bill Batch is going to end our show tonight with God Bless WJ.
Yep.
We miss you, man. Have a good week, everybody. Be safe, be careful, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
Good night.